Welcome back. You're watching ET Insight. The idea of transferring subsidy directly into the hands of poor beneficiaries has no dearth of takers. The simplicity of the idea is just too compelling to be ignored. But this system is not a magic bullet. There are many real-world problems the new system must overcome before it can be successful. Nikhil Sivadas has the details.
India has one of the largest populations of poor people in the world. The Planning Commission claims that about one-third of India's population lives below the poverty line. But numbers from the World Bank and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative put the figure at 42% and 55% respectively. Several state governments have disputed the Planning Commission's estimate as well. So what is the real figure one can go by? Well, no one can be sure because India does not have a centralized database with such statistics. That's something experts believe is a big challenge in implementing the government's ambitious direct cash subsidy scheme.
Identification of poor is a big question actually. The tagging someone as this is a poor and this is a beneficiary. And if you see the difference between the BPL census as well as the state government, how that they are giving the importance to that. And second thing is that also it is very big question. And if you see the another source is census data.
Where the subsidy regime is universal, independent of you need not identify the household. Anybody who uses it could be given. But if it is directed towards the poor as part of the poverty reduction program, in that case, the identification is a major challenge.
The inability to target the right demographic is what has created the current subsidy system, where money is stolen by intermediaries. Social welfare schemes usually suffer from errors of inclusion and exclusion in identifying eligible entities. Errors of inclusion are caused by the lack of centralized databases, leading to ghost beneficiaries and fakes. That allows for leakages in the system and diverts commodities from the intended recipients. Then there are errors of exclusion. A lack of awareness of subsidy schemes and an inability to provide documentation mean that many beneficiaries get excluded completely from the system.
That is one risk, that the people getting the money may not be the right people. But for that, you've got to identify them properly, be sure that the cash transfers are only to their accounts, and that is being done through direct cash transfers to bank accounts, rather than handing out cash which someone else could be taking away.
For the direct transfer system to serve as an effective replacement, it is necessary that the procedures to identify beneficiaries are laid out. For example, take the subsidy on fertilizers. The interim report intends to give the subsidy to farmers rather than fertilizer companies. But it has not made it clear if the subsidies are going to be restricted to small and marginal farmers or if they'll include the larger, more productive farmers as well. That problem is made worse by the fact that the lack of records of landholding in the country makes it impossible to identify such farmers anyway. The government hopes to solve this problem by integrating the direct cash subsidy program with the Aadhaar program. The idea being that the UID will help deal with errors of exclusion and inclusion through the assurance of uniqueness its biometric systems and electronic databases will provide. The Aadhaar system will also help in real-time authentication of a beneficiary's ID and confirm transfer of subsidies. But therein lies the problem. The government is pinning the entire success of the direct cash subsidy program on the UID system. From identification to introducing the desired technology and infrastructure on the ground, everything depends on the successful implementation of the UID project.
The key to building a direct transfer system of any kind, or even of improving existing transfer system, was the UID Aadhaar number. That is kind of the foundation on which the rest of the system has to be built. To discuss any system, we have to assume that that is in place first.
Indeed, and worryingly, the UID project has already missed its stated target of issuing 100 million cards by March 2011. To date, only about 20 million UIDs have been issued, with experts claiming that the project may not reach its ambitious target of 600 million UIDs by 2014. That's not all. The delay in the UID project may also have an effect on the direct cash subsidy scheme's requirement of bank accounts for all beneficiaries. The RBI estimates that 6 out of every 10 Indians do not have bank accounts. The Task Force on Direct Cash Subsidies has envisaged an Aadhaar-linked payment bridge that would have enabled real-time transfers of cash. But the technology and infrastructure to enable this is still in the planning stages.
It is a cash transfer after all. So I think the first challenge is where do you draw the line and how can you be sure that you've targeted the right population. The second, as you said, is really a technological challenge of getting UID out as soon as possible. And the third, which is not a small challenge, is financial inclusion, to actually roll out banking into the interior parts of our country so that there's enough penetration.
All this banking kind of infrastructure is definitely going to be there or required in these rural areas to sort of have the disbursement through them. And obviously to have these kind of disbursement mechanism, to have the identification of the genuine beneficiaries, you need to have a very solid technology support as well. So getting all these things in place, getting to make sure that some of these factors are giving the right kind of benefit, it's going to be a huge task.
Another challenge to the successful implementation of the program will be the impact of volatile prices. The task force has not addressed what will happen once the prices of commodities like kerosene and LPG are deregulated. The government will also have to frequently administer and allocate the subsidy amounts, which will pose significant administrative challenges.
Once if we move this to a market-based subsidy system, we will also have to have some way of predicting how the market is going to react as far as commodity prices are concerned, because we will then peg it against the market dynamics.
And last but not the least is the resistance that the new system will face from parties with vested interests like the middlemen. Aware of the challenges, the government is treading cautiously. Although the successful implementation of the project seems uncertain at this point, experts believe that it is at least a step in the right direction.
And done, you're done.
Indeed it is. And here it's important to tell you that direct cash transfers by the government is not unique to India. Several countries, including Brazil and Mexico, have similar schemes which are very successful. So what can India do to ensure that its program is as effective? R.S. Sharma, the Director General and Mission Director of the UID project, will answer that and more in just a bit. Don't go away.